John, in the second to last chapter of your book, you quote Moana Jackson, the late Moana Jackson, and the phrase an ethic of restoration. Then I think in the last paragraph you spell out what that means for Moana, and about caring for the land, living here responsibly, about balance, about relationship, about conciliation. And it seems to me he was pointing to a way of being with each other beyond stereotypes, beyond the sort of political parties trying to get a share of a vote by making controversy worse in a way. He was trying to get people meeting together, caring together, but also the sense that there's some repair work to be done. And if you think of a partnership being like a marriage between cultures, there's some hard work at times about not just the past, but particularly has our institutions which favour people with a white skin from a European heritage, how it continues to make decisions that impact badly on Māori and other minorities. And so this restoration work, how do you see it going forward?
Well, I think the restoration has to be done by each partner. I think the Waitangi Tribunal process, the treaty settlement process, has enabled Māori to begin the work of restoration of their world, of their lands, of their economy, of their education and health system, because they are now taking responsibility and are given authority to control their own truth, their own life, their own place. And equally, there is homework waiting to be done by Pākehā. The most visible expression of that is finally the willingness of Pākehā to address their own history and to teach their own history in the school curriculum. And that's a huge breakthrough. And there are a lot of nervous people around the birth of that new curriculum.
Why do you think we haven't had it? Why when I went to school was it all Europe-centred and world wars and what caused World War One? I mean, why wasn't it learning about in our own place? And like the America, I went to school in America for a year and as a high school student, and it was all about America, America, America. I mean, why hasn't it all been about New Zealand, New Zealand, New Zealand?
Well, because I think Pākehā have been anxious and afraid of their own story. Because even before we said out loud how ambiguous it is, we were silently worrying about whether it was a story worth telling and whether it should be told. If you read the poetry of people like the Morgans and the Kernos and the Brashers, the poetry of the 40s and 50s, it's a poetry that describes us as being not having much to be proud about. Brian Turner, a wonderful South Island poet, wrote a poem called New Zealander, a Definition. And it's a one-line poem, and it goes, born here, buggered it up. And that's a measure of the kind of ambivalence that we've had towards our own story, our own history. Thank God we're beginning to get through that, and with some of the wonderful historians that we've had in the last 20 years that have written our history, warts and all, we're beginning to start to realise not only is there much that we need to repent of in that story, but also there's much to be proud of. There's huge achievement, and there's things that we should take hold of and celebrate. Now, getting that confidence, I think, is part of regaining what we might call a Pākehā spirituality, a spirituality that lets us say, we don't only belong here, we've actually defined our place here as a soul place, as a heart place. And when we start to gain confidence in talking like that, then I think the future is going to be a whole lot easier, and the partnership with Maori is suddenly going to flourish. And it's always got to be more than partnership. It was Bishop Muru Walters who used to tell us so emphatically, we don't want just partnerships, we want relationships. Partners need to turn themselves into friends. And how often do you hear the language of friendship being used in the conversation between Maori and Pākehā? Not very often. And when we start to talk about each other as friends as well as partners, not just political partners, but soul partners, friends, then I think this journey towards 2040 is going to be a whole lot easier.